Hello and welcome to another episode of The Savvy Entrepreneur. Today we'll be talking about working from home, and I've got the perfect guest for us. My good friend Keyvan has got a startup that focuses on helping people optimize their work from home experience. Keyvan, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Tallis. Thanks for having me and making the time.
I appreciate you taking the time. So tell us about HubbleIQ.
Yes. So my company is HubbleIQ. We're here in sunny California, where it really doesn't matter anymore because everything's digital and virtual. So I may as well be in Mexico. But my company is HubbleIQ, and we're a company that was built by remote workers for remote workers. We want to make it as easy and predictable as possible to be anywhere you choose to be and be as productive as you can possibly be, removing all the friction and all the obstacles that get in the way of remote workers. So what we focus on with HubbleIQ is helping you understand what internet connection quality you're dealing with. Is your internet good enough to get work done at your location? Is your Wi-Fi good? Is your Comcast behaving as it should be, as you expect it to? And can you access the services, the Zooms, the Slacks, and all the things you need to be productive? Are they available from where you are? Because when you're a remote worker, you're out in the wild, right? You're not in your corporate office building where the IT person is a phone call away and they can bang your computer a couple of times and fix the problem. You're really out there in the forest, in the jungle, with your laptop, and we are the flashlight, the sword, the map to help you navigate and fend for yourself. And we do that intelligently. We use a lot of sort of tech underneath the scenes, but we really want to make it super simple and easy for you to know, like, hey, don't get on that Zoom call from here. They're not going to hear you well. You're going to cut out on their side. You may not even realize it, but you're going to try to close a deal with your customer, and you're going to be nothing kills your mojo more than you're trying to close a deal or make a strong statement, and you're cutting out, and someone asks you to repeat yourself. So that stuff's predictable. And when you're a remote worker, there's a lot of insecurities when it comes to can you actually be effective remotely? But we want to relieve those securities and say, look, we're going to do all the pre-checks. We're going to forecast how successful you're going to be from your current location. And right now it's the home. Everyone's working from home, and people are slowly starting to see how productive they can be, how low the trade-offs are. I mean, there's a lot of considerations, but I don't think anyone's eager to get back on the freeway and sit in traffic to go sit in an office when they can actually do the same amount of work at home. So I think work from home is going to shift from the house to Hawaii to Cabo when all this is done. And as people are just away from the office, we want to be a guiding light for them to find a sufficient workspace and to be able to understand and preemptively understand what they're able to do and what they're unable to do without taking chances with these types of interactions. So just to kind of give you an example, before we get on this call, or this interview, I said I need to check my internet connection. I need to make sure my wife, who's working from home downstairs, or my kids who are playing Fortnite or streaming Netflix, that they're not hogging up the bandwidth that I have. Because the internet's really like weather, right? It changes, whether it's in my house or whether it's the neighborhood. Everyone's watching. What's the show everyone's watching these days? Game of Thrones? I don't know. I don't watch much.
King.
Oh, yeah. And, a lot of these conditions can change. And if you live next door, or if you talk to your friends, everyone deals with unexpected internet issues. And, it's not perfect. And, I think you and I are pretty fortunate where, we probably have pretty fast internet and a good router setup. But, if you look at the whole world, no, the internet quality spectrum is very, very wide. So you need to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, I can see that being very valuable. And you bring up a good point. I have great internet, and I'm so blessed to be using Nextlight here in Longmont. Longmont has internet as a public utility. So I've got gigabyte speeds, fiber right to my door. So I am so lucky. But for those who do have this super fast internet, how do they benefit from your platform?
Yep. No, great question. And I get asked that a lot. Like, I have fast internet at home. Why do I need HubbleIQ? Well, I mean, there's a few reasons for this. The first mainly is, network conditions change, as I mentioned. And, your fast internet, to your door, your fiber, it could be a gig up and down, but, you know, your experience with it depends on more than just how fast that internet's coming into your house. Is it, you know, are there a lot of people in your house? Do you have the $500, $600 Google Wi-Fi setup to go on top of that, right? Where are you working in your house? Because earlier today I was sitting in the backyard working, and my router is on the bottom left corner of my house. Can it reach me there? Because if it can't, it doesn't matter how fast that link, to the Longmont or AT&T is. That last inch matters just as much as the speed of that internet. So I think that's sort of number one. Number two, the internet quality is different than internet speed. This conversation we're having doesn't need the gigabit internet subscription I have. It simply doesn't. It needs a stable fraction of that, right? With good latency, low jitter, low packet loss, and some other factors that need to be taken into account to make sure that we can have this conversation, right? If we have bursts of high speed and I'm talking like this and it's easy, and all of a sudden I freeze, and then I unfreeze, it doesn't matter. Max speed is up here, but quality consistency is garbage. So quality matters. That's affected by the provider. That's affected by the number of walls in your house. You mentioned it was windy in Boulder, the wind that's blowing outside. We work with a rural broadband provider out here in the Central Valley. And when you look at the internet holistically, again, we're in sort of these little bubbles where we're pretty blessed to have high speed and affordable internet. But if you're out in Central Valley, or say in the mountains in Colorado, or even eastern Colorado, it's a very different situation. And Comcast, AT&T, these providers will not run high-speed internet to reach a house that's 20 miles or even a mile away from the next house. It's too expensive for them to serve one user that way. So these are the people that are sort of left off to the side, where we live in neighborhoods where it's dense. One cable gets us 200 or more customers. Yeah, of course we're going to dig a hole in the ground and put it there. So those internet providers or those internet users, they either don't have internet or they're serviced by wireless type technologies. Like maybe it's their phone, which we all know how much signal strength can vary, right? Especially when you get out of the city. They're serviced by wireless ISPs, so providers that are specifically established for the rural market. They put a big antenna there, and they'll have an antenna or a satellite on top of your house, and it's all wireless, right? Line of sight, tens of miles of line of sight connectivity. I mean, you can imagine what could potentially get in the way. And what we hear about is, there's a tree that finally grew into that line of sight, and the packets started dropping, or there was a storm, or a building went up and it blocked the line of sight. So, you look at it that way, that's a huge part of the population that doesn't have this experience that we have. And that's just looking at the United States. I think the number was like 20% or 20 million people in the United States don't have what the government considers to be sufficient broadband or high-speed internet. And that's in the United States. I've traveled to Africa, parts of Europe, and it's a very, very different situation there. So if I'm a Netflix or I'm a Zoom, how do I manage that? Well, I can just decide I'm just going to service people in San Francisco because I know they're going to have a good experience with our service. Or you have to figure out a completely different approach to getting your service to those people, to the people on the other side of that digital divide, so that they can get on Zoom and talk to their doctor, to attend class. I mean, they just can't simply be left out, left up to side and ignored. So, HubbleIQ really comes in to empower the individual user to know how to navigate and fend for themselves. And on the other side of it, we actually empower this rural provider to understand where the gaps are, so they can jump in and fix them before it's too late, before the student says, screw this, I'm not going to go to class, right? So that's really why we take this approach of helping people. Let's put powerful tools in their hands that are easy for them to use. It doesn't require certification. So That's why I think high-speed internet users need HubbleIQ. Sorry, we went on a tangent there.
No, it's great that you're helping the under-interneted or the disbandwidth, or however the correct phrase is. The underserved populations really do benefit from the internet. So kudos to you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. And one other thing I will say, and I think this will relate even to you and you and me who have high-speed internet at home. Until COVID, I mean, this is a short, very recent thing, and we'll be at home for a little while. But I think you just like myself are very mobile people. We're very mobile workers, and my provider doesn't care what my experience is at Starbucks or when I'm at the airport or when I'm traveling. It's not their jurisdiction anymore. Right? I can't call Comcast and say, "Hey, I'm sitting here at the Marriott and I can't get on my video call. Why are you so terrible?" They're gonna laugh, and so it's this big finger pointing game where it's like, sure, we move, and under normal circumstances, I connect on 5, 6 different networks in a day, whether I'm dropping my daughter off at daycare and I'm in the parking lot taking a call, grandma's house, Starbucks, wherever. I'm responsible for my quality connectivity, not any of those individual entities, especially where I'm not connecting through them. So, you got to have a consistent experience. When you work and move like us, and a lot of people are now, and even more so, Comcast isn't going to be the one to give you something like this to help you out, because it's not their responsibility to make sure you have a good experience on AT&T.
Yeah, I've definitely had that situation. I literally have had a Snap investor meeting that I had to do at the gate of an airport. The signal was horrible. I was lucky enough to be able to connect to the Wi-Fi, but I was doing the robot on the call, and it did not go very well. So I wish I would have had a service like yours to help me figure out the best way to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
So on that topic of helping people, can you give us some more tips on best practices that you found to optimize your work from home experience?
Sure. Yeah, I've been a remote worker for, I'd say, most of my career. I won't say fully remote, but in some capacity, I've had flexibility. And I think what people are experiencing right now is something that I'm very familiar with, which is sort of that balancing act. Now that the commute is gone, now that the refrigerator's downstairs within striking distance, how do we structure our day and actually be happy and healthy remote workers? And my wife, she's been working from home full time recently, and she'll sit down in front of her computer at 8 in the morning, and she won't leave the room until 5. And until recently, it's that's changed. It's not healthy, and it's not sustainable. I think it fast tracks burnout. So sort of my first tip is structure your day. Structure your day. Don't think of your walk as slacking. Think of your walk as part of work. I am now working. I'm resetting my brain. I'm thinking about different things away from my screen. I'm going from this tactical mode and responsive mode with all these Slacks and messages to strategic thinking or imaginative thinking. So I think that's number one. And for me personally, my tip is number 2 is exercise. You have time back. Definitely exercise, and that could be that walk, right? You can integrate it, or set time aside, put it on your calendar. I'm unavailable because I have to go and jog. It'll make you a better worker. Again, it's not slacking. It'll make you a better worker. And I came to that realization, about a year and a half ago when I became really an independent full-time worker. And people ask me like, "Hey, how did you lose 80 pounds?" I was like, "Well, I started working remotely, and I figured out how to balance my life in the right way. I didn't have to sit in the car, going to Palo Alto and sitting in traffic for 3 or 4 hours a day. The stress levels will throw your body completely off balance, and you'll have issues, cholesterol, blood pressure. So you have an opportunity when you're working from home to actually take control of that and take full advantage of it. It'll make you a sharper thinker. It'll make you happier. It just translates into productivity much more than probably anything else you can do. Than eating healthy and watching the refrigerator trips. That helps. And I think the third thing, actually really simple tip, is think about how you come off or how you look on the other side of the video call. You'll see a lot of People taking calls where their laptop is really low and they're a silhouette. You can't really see their face. Not really as thoughtful about it. And I think it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. Optics still matter as long as there's another human on the other side of that digital chain. I mean, I can see you've thought about it with your setup and your lighting. I'm actually still getting there. I moved my desk to be in front of the window to get more light, but it ended up washing me out a little bit. But it's okay for now. But I'm conscious of it. My background is somewhat organized. Again, if I turn the camera, it might not look the same, but it affects your digital interactions. So I think being mindful of that is very, very important. And then of course, making sure your connectivity is sufficient for a meeting, right? For the way you collaborate, because that's time wasted. It's frustration. You lose your thought flow when there's a hiccup or a jitter or interruption of any type. So HubbleIQ helps you do that, and just being mindful, because you're accountable for all these things. No one's. I mean, maybe now they're a little more forgiving, but I think that if this is the new normal, this is going to be a skill that you put on LinkedIn. I know how to manage remotely and be remote. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but.
Yeah, you're right. Being remote is a skill, and for those who do a lot of teleconferencing or doing video, it's kind of difficult because this isn't something I've been doing for a very long time. Yet people have reached out to me saying, "Oh, tell us, how do you do your video?" And I had to do a lot of research. So my setup is actually a tripod with my iPhone and a little light behind it to get me the angle like you were talking about, to make sure that I'm illuminated and that my background is cropped to the clean part of the room. But you've got great audio and great video. What is your setup?
Yeah, so I actually bought a Yeti mic. You can see it is right here. You can see it. I do some voiceover over it, using it. I think AirPods work great. AirPods are one of my favorite Apple products, and if I'm traveling, that's sufficient. I don't need to take my mic around with me. If I'm at home, I'll use it. So I use this cheap little Yeti device. It's about $100 at Best Buy or Amazon. I use a Logitech webcam. It's a 1080p webcam, but I have it mounted on my monitor. Again, so I don't want to look at you like this, or whatever the wrong angle. I want us to have sort of this eye-to-eye level experience. It changes the whole tone and the whole demeanor of the conversation. And then actually my favorite thing is my stand-up desk. So I've been doing this for a while, so I do have a desk that goes up and down.
Very cool.
Yeah, depending on the type of work you're doing, if you're trying to riff, and I have my whiteboard here, I'm trying to think about ideas and how we want to evolve HubbleIQ. I have to stand up and do that. I can't sit down and just do this all day and come up with ideas. The blood needs to flow. So
I'm jealous. You have a sit-down desk, but next upgrade is definitely going to be a standing desk for the office.
Yeah. So IKEA sells them pretty reasonably priced, and yeah. And actually, one little trick you can start to look out for with this whole remote revolution, a lot of startups and smaller sort of digital businesses are really embracing remote work, and they're shutting down their offices. They're saying, look, we can do this remote. We can save a lot of money. It's fine. And then they end up getting rid of all of their fancy office equipment. I actually just saw it on Facebook. One of the companies I know very closely. Yeah, they put all their desks in the parking lot and said, anybody trying to open an office, here you go, bulk sale. And I wish I'd known that before I got my standing desk. I would have picked up one of those.
Keyvan, can you give us a demo of HubbleIQ?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I'll show it to you with something that you can actually download and use as soon as you watch this video. So if you go to HubbleIQ.com, and this is actually a sneak peek of our new website. We haven't quite launched it yet. You'll see it's slightly different, but HubbleIQ.com, you can go there today. There is a little bit of information about the application, but there's also a button here that you can add to Chrome. Now, we have a Chrome extension we put out there just for people to use. It's built on top of the platform, but that's sort of the technical part of it. And yeah, you can add it to your Chrome browser with really a couple of clicks. And this thing sits here and it tells you what you're dealing with. So when you connect to new networks, or if you get disconnected and you reconnect to a network, it will intelligently run and tell you, you have a great internet connection, or hey, maybe you should consider dialing in to this meeting, instead of streaming video or streaming audio, because we predict that you're going to have problems. So we really want to keep it simple, actionable. We're working on putting this into your calendar so that it can just run and tell you ahead of time. I mean, nothing is more alarming than a problem that you have and you don't have enough time to actually take action and fix it. So the idea is this will tell you when you connect to a new network what you're dealing with. But as I mentioned earlier, the network is like weather. It changes. So we check your Wi-Fi weather forecast and we tell you this is what you're dealing with. We put it in context that is easy to understand. Like if it's not an important meeting, we'll tell you you can't do video sharing, but that's fine. You make the call. You be the judge, because it's about empowering you to take control of your life and understand what the quality of your connectivity is. So in this case, my connection's good. A little bit of technical data up here, but yeah, your connection's great. Keep going. And if you look here, there are a couple of different scenarios. Your Wi-Fi is unstable. If you're trying to do emails or simple tasks, it could be fine. But if you're going to get on a call like this, where the impact could be very high, you need to know this. It could be an investor, like you mentioned earlier. So, okay for browsing, not for streaming. And then so basically on the context of your network, we'll tell you what you're dealing with in a way that you can understand.
What about security?
Excuse me?
What about security?
So security is a very, very, very important part of what we're here for, and how we want to empower the consumer. Today, we're focused on the connectivity side of things. We are building features to help you understand how secure your environment is. We have the ability to do that. So it's part of our roadmap, and you'll see these features get rolled out and say, look, this network isn't secure. You should use your cellular MiFi instead. We can see that connectivity is strong, and that connection is good for banking or anything to deal with bill paying. So we can assess these things and remember, our plan is to roll that into HubbleIQ. And then if you look at sort of why an enterprise would want to give this to their remote employees, well, for the same reason, right? They're working across networks that are have varying levels of quality and varying levels of security. So the old way of supporting employees in the same building is very different than how you have to support them when they're out in the wilderness, as I like to say. So helping them navigate, sort of like Google Maps tells you, go this way, don't go that way. That's the approach we have to take. And security is a very, very big part of that. Connectivity is clearly a big part of that, because everything without security and connectivity, pull out a book, right? And you're not going to get any work done. So it's a very, very good question. And that's somewhere we're heading for sure.
What other new features are you guys working on?
Top secret stuff, man. Well, we really, again, we built this for remote workers. We're not, like those companies that say, oh yeah, we're working a browser, therefore we're a remote working company. It's kind of a trend we're hearing today. Like Slack is, we've always been for remote workers. Like, no, you work with remote workers, but it wasn't built with that intention necessarily. Well, Slack maybe, right? Because people are distributed and you can use Slack for communication. So actually, I will say Slack is that case. But things that simply live in a browser aren't necessarily built for remote workers. It's just that's part of a subset. We look at HubbleIQ as a tool that will power the completely digital, workforce, class force, digital health. And connectivity is important, security is important, but then how we guide users, to places where they can connect well, right? When I book a hotel in a different city, I may want to know what the connectivity quality is of that hotel. And when we look at sort of how we use a little bit of our intelligence and the information that we're gathering, we can drive those recommendations. And so the next really stage or step of HubbleIQ is to essentially guide you to quality connectivity before you leave your house. Or you're in a different part of town, where can I go to actually do the work that I need to do, right? Where it's a good place. I'm sitting here, this isn't great. Starbucks across the street. We know we've ranked this network. It's a good place with a high quality connection. Work there, right? And we want to do this on a global scale because under normal circumstances, we are mobile people. In this time of day, connection's good. In this time of night, connectivity drops. I'll tell you a funny story very quickly. I was, my mother-in-law was traveling overseas. She was in Southeast Asia, Bangladesh specifically, and she ran HubbleIQ. And we were able to predict that network cuts out, I think, about 5 times a day. Right? So that's information we know. And if I decided to go to Bangladesh and Dhaka and work from that network, I'm probably not going to take my PC or my customer calls from there, because the internet will cut out. Now, why? Well, it could be a number of things. I think in her case, it was the power. It was electricity that kept cutting out. So these are patterns that we sort of identify, and we can put that power and that intelligence in the hands of you, so that as you roam and work from different places, again, I love surprises when it comes to birthdays. I do not like them when it comes to me trying to get work done and meet with people and collaborate remotely. So
that's great. Absolutely. And kudos to you for making such a robust platform using AI and machine learning. So Great job.
We have to. I didn't say AI and machine learning. It's become overused term, but again, we look at how we use our data to drive guidance. There is sort of a learning aspect to it. So, but I'm a little lethargic to those particular buzzwords.
That's true. They are way overused.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to ask you is when you're building your team, and now this is a segment that we're going to be doing, asking all of our entrepreneurs that we interview on the show, is when you're building your team, what components of company culture do you look for when bringing on a new employee?
No. So HubbleIQ, it would be sort of counterintuitive for us to not be a fully distributed team. So it's something that we're learning, and personally, I've seen what works and what doesn't work from a culture standpoint. Trust is the foundation. Trust, you have to have it. You have to bring on people that are motivated the same way you are, and you don't have to micromanage. And if you have to micromanage, then you have to start tracking, and it gets remote only works when you're taking a big brother approach, and you're seeing a kind of a surge of these types of tools to track and monitor. Is this person in front of their computer? Are they not? No. If you're doing that, you're already losing. So trust, choosing your team and trusting them, and let the trust culture, sort of correct, sort of the problem areas. If you see that, the work isn't happening, then, that skill isn't there for someone to be remote, right? We mentioned earlier, being remote is a skill, and that's something that you have to look for. And then you have to be able to trust that person or trust your team to, do what they need to do. Now that the 9 to 5 has been blown wide open, the deadlines and the goals have to sort of form to everyone working on different schedules. I have to drop my kid off. I have to go to the grocery store, but the work will get done at the target time. So I think that's number one. And then I think number two is how you're measuring productivity. We're very event and action oriented. Excuse me, I'm gonna turn off my Slack here. We're very event and action oriented. We need to see clicks and sort of things, and we in our mind translate this to productivity, right? It's not productivity. This is a wrong way of measuring work. So that culturally, fundamentally has to change as well. And until we do that, you're going to be looking at the wrong metrics. And as a CEO of a company, my metric is how far are we moving the train, not how many hours did this developer spend clacking away, right? So measuring events and commits and things like that, that's micromanaging, and that will keep me from moving the train forward as fast as possible. So I think those are really the two main things: trust and how are we measuring productivity. Those fundamentally have to change when you're remote.
Awesome. Keyvan, I really appreciate it, sir.
Yep.
Working from home can be tough. So today, we'll be discussing some tips and best practices. First tip, For me, working out is essential. So it's good to get a workout in at least 3 days a week. It'll boost your endorphin levels, and it'll also help your immune system. Second tip, coordinate with your partner. If you have a spouse or a partner who is also working from home, make sure you coordinate with them so that you're both not doing teleconferences at the exact same time. Trying to talk over each other is not a good way to keep a healthy relationship. Tip 3. Snacking, for me at least, is inevitable. So if you're going to snack, at least snack with something healthy. For me, I love nuts like pistachios. Tip 4. Reward yourself. If you have a project that you're working on, after you get a substantial amount done, give yourself a little break. There's a reason why gamification works so well. Reward yourself. You deserve it. Tip 5. Understand patterns. If every week at a certain time your garbage truck comes, you should probably not schedule an important call right as they're picking up your garbage. Fun fact, in my neighborhood, there's a gentleman who walks his bird sometime between 9:30 and 10:30 in the morning. My dog does not like that bird, and I don't think that bird likes my dog either. So I've learned not to take my dog out for a walk during that period of time, and that worked for a while. Then the bird started chirping very loud as it would approach my house, giving my dog a notification, if you will, that they're coming by. So right on cue, after you hear a slight bird shrill, you hear my dog going bananas, and it's hard to even think when the dog is barking that loudly. Sixth, meditate. The app on the Apple Watch is great for meditation, for me at least. I can just close my eyes and wait for the buzzing on my watch to tell me when to breathe in and breathe out. It's a great way to relax and center myself before an important meeting or video shoot. For everyone who's watching, I hope you learned something today. I know I did. And if you're working from home, try to utilize some of the tips that we talked about today. Until next time, stay savvy.